All right, good afternoon. I am here at the University of Central Florida, and I'm here with Benjamin. How do I pronounce your last name?
Karpf. It's a weird one. The F is actually silent.
All right. So what is the name of the organization?
I am the president of the Secular Student Alliance over at the University of Central Florida. We're a partner with the National Secular Student Alliance as well as Center for Inquiry on campus. And the organization has existed for about 3 or 4 years, depending on if you count when we were meeting unofficially in like the top floor of the union versus when we were actually a student group that could get a room reservation.
And Ben, what is your story? Did you grow up in a religious family? Do you remember how you became an atheist?
The answer to religious family is kind of. I grew up Jewish.
Oh, dear.
I grew up a very secular Jewish. We didn't really go to temple. My bar mitzvah was done in a restaurant where we hired a cantor, and we had bacon pizza on quite a few of the religious holidays for fun. Over time, I grew up with the stories and just gradually okay, these are just moral tales. I don't believe that the earth is 6,000 years old. I learned evolution, we can trace back the fossil. And slowly it just kind of seemed disingenuous to say, yes, I believe in this, when really I didn't believe in it. And part of that has to do with my older brother, who was actually one of the founding members of this club. And when he started being more open about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of believe the same thing, and eventually just kind of accepted it. And now I'm the president of the club, so that escalated quickly.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm glad to hear you didn't grow up with any religious intolerance. Now, of course, you're aware of people that grew up with the parents really pushing the religion, and I even myself, to be honest, when I was coming out of the faith, I was worried about a punishment, a hell or a punishment. And I know that sounds stupid, but do you think that that's a reasonable fear, and what would you suggest to people facing that?
I think it's incredibly reasonable because it happens all too often. One of the reasons I became part of the student group was I was just kind of looking for things to do my freshman year, and the reason I stayed is I started talking to people and realized what the need is for a group like this. We have some truly terrible stories of members in our group. We have people who can't talk to their families or are afraid of coming out because they don't want to lose the connection, they need the financial support. It's not just the new people, it's sometimes members of the officers in the club still have some of those problems where their family they can't even talk about who they are, they're afraid of what's happened, telling them they're going to hell, their lifestyle is wrong. It's sad, and that's honestly one of the big things I think a community group can do is let them know they're not alone, so I think this helps a lot.
Yeah, that's great, that's very interesting. What stereotypes about atheists do you want to confront and correct?
Is every too vague of an answer? Well, on this campus, at times, I've met quite a few people. We table fairly often, just set up with our sign to let people know. And there's a lot of people out there who, depending on where they grew up, never met an atheist. So, honestly, there's a lot of misconceptions. The angry at God, which is not true. I don't think there is a God to be angry at. All terrible people, they can't have morals. And I'm guessing anyone watching this podcast knows enough to know we can do good stuff. We do a lot of charity, raise money, we volunteer. And also I think I might fit that stereotype a little bit, the beardy, pasty white guy. I do what I can, but we have a diverse group. There's a lot of wonderful, caring people. They're not angry, they're not bitter. They just want to live a normal life. They want to be happy like anyone else.
That's great. Now, this is an interesting question. Could a God exist?
Yes.
That's good. I mean, it's just, I used to correlate it to whether it's Bigfoot or aliens. Right now we don't have the evidence, but if I could bring you to the forest and show you Bigfoot, then you'd be a believer. If I could bring you to a planet or show you in a telescope an alien civilization. Like, is it kind of like that?
Yeah, so the reason I say atheist is I have not seen any evidence of God exist. It could still be out there, but the difference for me as an agnostic is I think it's very unlikely. Because the alien stuff, I don't think they're coming to this planet, but I'm guessing if we go in the billions of miles in the universe, we can probably find something. I haven't seen any evidence for it, but I'm leaving it out there. I don't think I'm going to see anything that's going to stand my burden of proof, but I'm open to if someone shows me irrefutable evidence, and I have the strange feeling someone might see this YouTube video and challenge me on that. I look forward to the messages, but if someone can show it to me, I won't just live my life in denial. I will accept the evidence.
Well, that's good. And that's what a lot of atheists, agnostics say. Thinking about the possibility of there being a heaven, and I don't know if it has been brought to my attention that in Judaism they don't really have that, but even so, like, we've all heard stories about a heaven. The possibility of there being that wonderful heaven for the good people, or even, a punishment for the bad people, maybe not a forever punishment, but like a reasonable punishment. Say someone did something bad to you and they got away with it. I like to mention a lot of examples of famous cases where someone got away with something. Would it be better if there was a punishment for the, some type of punishment in the afterlife, or even a great place to go for the good people?
I think a lot of that comes with the idea, when they come up with this idea, is that there is an absolute morality in this world. It comes from like a god or a deity or something. I don't believe I have that system. I believe this is the life we live. We can do what's best for there. I'm not entirely sure what a just punishment in the afterlife is. I'm not entirely sure what a just reward is, and I don't think there is one. So admittedly, it's not something I've really thought too much about, but I'm kind of content with whatever happens to people here.
Now, when we talk about the future, right, sometimes it seems that things are getting better. We've talked about all the events, we talked about the Reason Rally coming up, and it seems like the skeptical people are getting a voice. It seems like we're moving in the right direction and away from religious intolerance. But then sometimes it doesn't, because I turn on the TV, whenever I hear a story about, a country like Pakistan or some country in East Asia, it seems that they're still dealing with serious religious intolerance. There's suicide bombings, So the question is, do you think things are getting better or worse?
Overall, yes. I think part of the reason, I think we live in a more saturated culture. I think the different types of media has definitely exposed ourselves to the story. But at least what I'm seeing around me, I'm seeing people who would have never found a place at the very least 20 years ago, who would have had to hide who they are, can now at least be accepted. They can talk openly. They're not quite as afraid. I think there's a lot of issues. I think everything just listed is terrible and something needs to be done to stop them. But I think on the whole, we are moving towards that progress. We are moving towards things getting better for everyone.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Optimism, right?
Why do you think people take offense if you question their religious beliefs? I don't know if you dealt with this, but in my years of realizing things and thinking about it, someone would say something, and they would say a story about the Bible, some magical event. I usually use the example of Noah's Ark, and they would describe, God did this and this happened, and I would say, are you sure? Or maybe it happened in another way, or maybe it didn't happen, and they would get angry and start insulting me and even threatening me and everything. Are you familiar with this kind of behavior?
I am.
Why do you think people do that? Why do they get angry if you threaten their religious, or if you, question their religious beliefs?
If you base your whole life off something, if that has led you to have a loving family and friends, and all of a sudden someone comes in and says something like, well, what if all that is wrong? I'm guessing it's going to be the pushback because they don't want to lose that. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and quote an author, Peter Boghossian. Are you familiar with his work?
I'm not.
He does a lot of how people think and how to formulate arguments. And he spoke here a couple of years ago. And the thing is, he wrote a book called Manual for Creating Atheists, and it's not quite this like firebrand, let's go out and indoctrinate. It's kind of, well, if you have these conversations, here's how they're going to think. And his whole thing is, if you just flat out say they're wrong, of course they're going to have some backlash. Really, if you're curious, the best thing I think you can do for anyone is get them to question what they believe. And if I can turn around at some point during the interview, the back of all, we're sure to say question everything.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I saw that on the way in. I like that and everything. Another thing that was very intriguing, people will give credit for their high moral character to the Bible, right? They'll say, I do the right thing because of the Bible. You know, I love my family, and do, kind of like you said before, I do all these good things because of the Bible. But the problem is, the Bible, I think we could agree if you studied it, it has a lot of terrible things in it. It talks about killing, right? I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of bad things in the Bible. So why would someone accredit their their high moral character to the Bible?
It's how they learned it, a decent bit maybe. I think family plays a big role. A lot of people are comfortable if they have the good family, if they have the good circle, if it's been there for them. I think they kind of just accepted, like, this is what it teaches because this is what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
And we are talking about a book that's thousands of years old, that started out in one different language, got translated between several others back and forth, and at some point just got, okay, we're taking this, and we're making this as the definite book. And even then there's the King James, there's the, I'm drawing a blank, but there's quite a few different versions.
Yeah, the New International version.
New International. And then there's groups like the Seventh Day who just believe that the holy day was not on, I think they believe it's Saturday, not Friday.
Right,
something like that. It's I think if someone says they've gotten it down perfectly, there's at least one part that a lot of people would disagree with them. So, to me, I don't really want to argue. I'm not here to ruin someone's life. I'm not here to just start yelling at them. If it makes them be a good person, love their family, not kill people, if that's what they need, I say they're better off because of it. I just don't think they need that Bible to be a good person.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. People who understand science, people like, there are scientists that are, devout Christians. Like, I like to use the example of Ken Miller. Are you familiar with him? He's a biologist. He knows all, he wrote books on evolution. He's like one of the go-to people on evolution. But he's also, I believe he's a Roman Catholic, and he goes to church, and he does that too. And I mean, there are plenty of examples of people that know all about science and understand it and don't deny it and can even contribute to it, but are religious and still believe in God. Any thoughts on that?
Again, as long as they're like good, for the most part, I don't really want to, tell them they're wrong. They're entitled to their beliefs. It's a free country. I understand there's definitely that confusion when there's the creation and you spend your whole life studying evolution. I understand that's hard for a lot of atheists, but it's not my battle as long as they're respecting everyone else's beliefs.
That's good. That's
yeah.
I had this is actually my favorite question, and I try to make sure I get this in all my interviews. I had a friend that was an atheist when I was a kid, and we both spent time in New York. I was there to kind of go through 9/11. I lived in New Jersey, right across the river, as you know, and I saw it happen, and then the news of Muslim suicide bombers, expecting virgins in heaven, right?
Yeah.
That became a talking point, and I had my friend who was an atheist. He said, these suicide bombers expecting this paradise, they don't even get a chance to be disappointed. Yeah. And the question I asked him, and the question I'm going to ask you is, does a part of you wish they could be disappointed? Whether that means that there's a more reasonable afterlife, or whether that means whatever it means, but does a part of you wish they could be disappointed?
Not sure if disappointed is. It almost sounds like a mild thing when it's that. Yeah, I remember that. I was actually, I moved to Florida when I was 3. I was actually visiting New York City, and I have a picture of me like in August 2001 on top of the.
Oh wow, that's great.
Which was something to think about for. Yeah, the 6-year-old then, 6 or 7-year-old, but I would like there to be some sort of punishment. I do like to believe that people should receive some sort of justice for the action, but I think we kind of touched on this earlier. Do I wish there was this afterlife? And
No.
I don't think I can be the one to decide what that is. I think there deserves to be something, and honestly the best thing I can come up with is I hope they live. Eventually the world becomes a place where their ideas just won't even exist anymore because everyone learns how horrible it is. We move past that as a culture, we move past that as everyone.
Yeah, no, hopefully we move in the right direction, absolutely. Enlightenment is very important. Many people, when they, I guess, a lot of religious people, they have, okay. The question is, if it's someone's first day wondering, what would be your advice? So if someone grew up as a Christian or whatever, and they knew the Bible and God was there, and they're early on in their time, in their period of starting to question. And because some of our favorite people, Matt Dillahunty, Seth Andrews, they were Christians. Matt Dillahunty wanted to be a preacher, right? So he must have had, I guess, a first day or a first week wondering. So if it's someone's first day or first week wondering, what advice would you have?
Yeah, it's a common one. I think like 2 or 3 of the vice presidents of the club we've had, like 3 or 4, a good number of them at some point were considering being a priest or a pastor or could do like the speed quotes. And at some point they got something that made them wonder. And to me, I have to ask questions, go on Google, see what you're wondering about, see if anyone else has any doubts, see if anyone else can give you a new perspective. Feel free to ask the people you grew up with in the faith, see if they can give a reasonable answer. I think you owe it to yourself if you have a doubt about something, especially something like personally held beliefs, to question it. I think you should look into it and figure it out for yourself. Know that you're not alone in the questioning. There are others out there like you. There's a lot of great resources. And never underestimate the power of Google. It's a vital skill as a college student.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
And everything. What is, like, should we maintain religious freedom? Should we maintain the ability to proselytize? Why?
Yeah, I definitely am for that. And honestly, quite a few different answers. I'll start with the basic. I believe everyone is a human being, has a right to their own beliefs as long as they're not like going out and harming other people because of them. And I think we should respect them as people. I guess humanism, people for the most part tend to respect others, love others. And also, and I feel like that whenever I hear like, how can you allow these hateful things, at some points, just the status quo now says, all those people spewing that stuff is terrible, and I agree with them. But there might be one group out there who just has the unpopular opinion at the moment, and if they never get the chance to say what they believe, we can miss out on progress. I think at a time, pretty recently in this country, there are a lot of ideas that we take as, of course, certain people, everyone deserves the right to vote and stuff like that at the time made people uncomfortable, and I feel like people would use that as an excuse to
That's a very good point. No, that's a very good point. A lot of things, just like you said, women have the right to vote. I think that might be what you meant, or even what is the word when they got rid of slavery? Emancipation.
Emancipation.
In the 1830s, that was seen as like, I don't know. There were protesters for it. No, you're right. A lot of times it starts out.
I want to use that as the justification for the people who are out there spewing horrible stuff, yelling at people. But even then, I'd much rather have them saying it and being open. I don't think them keeping it in does any good. At least if they're out there open, yes, it makes people uncomfortable. It gives you a chance to have the discourse. You have a chance to change people's minds, make things better instead of just keeping it below the surface, letting it build.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Being comfortable with I don't know, right? I think that's a question I have here. And so right now we're on this earth, we're in this universe. We probably both agree the Genesis account is not what happened.
Yeah.
But we don't know how the world was created. We don't know how the universe was created. We don't know whether, how do you be comfortable with that?
I don't know.
Because you follow, like, I mean, that might have been one of the reasons they started the religion, and some people, even myself, like, it's a little stressful, like, gee, I'd like to know how we got here, you know?
I don't really see it as a big comfortable. I think I accept I don't know at this time, and I think we should work towards figuring out the answers. I kind of see the I don't know as life instead of just filling it in the blanks, just making something out that fits. Do the research, try and find out. I don't think I'll solve every question that way, but I don't think it's going to stop me from questioning.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people, when they're in a debate, especially when a religious person is debating you, they'll point to a lot of the bad people, historical figures that were atheists, you know, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao, there's a couple that I forget, but does it, like, so someone like Joseph Stalin, you know, and I've heard them say, I think Dawkins was in the debate, and the guy said, well, Stalin was an atheist, you know, does it matter that Stalin was an atheist?
Not in the grand scheme. I'm not particularly proud to be in the same category as I'm sure any religious person who shares a terrible historical figure with that is. But I think there's a bit more to it than that. To me, atheism is just you don't believe that there is a God out there. I think there's a bit more to it than that, and I think really any group, I don't think it comes down to just if they believe there's a God or not. I think there's a bit more about where they've been, what they've been through, why they think that way. I think it's a simplification to a complex issue.
That's interesting. We talked a little bit, I think we were talking about, you had asked me about the question about in my state, they wanted to legalize prostitution, they thought it would be safer. And the reason I asked that question is because, so when they had women who were prostitutes who had been beaten and you know, either killed or just beaten or whatever, someone thought of the idea to legalize it to make them safer, you know, that way they're not hiding from police. And also, so we're not using resources to put them in jail. But people protested it on the basis of, you know, it's unholy, it's unchristian, it's ungodly, and I'm sure we would disagree with that.
America's oldest profession, right?
Whenever there's some type of moral issue like that, how should we think about, I usually jokingly ask, should we think about what God wants, but obviously I know that, you know, I think I asked R and Raj, just to get him excited, should we think what God wants, but what should we think about when considering a moral issue like that?
How do we help most people? I think it's out there, and honestly, I hear the morals. I think we can convince at this point, I don't know, at least I grew up in somewhat liberal areas, and I don't think it was that big a deal. I understand a lot of the country. It's not like that, but I think if we can prove that these people are in danger, they need this help, it's bad for everyone when this happens, I think that's a good way to approach a lot of these issues, to show that we help more people, because really I think no matter what religion, most people want to go towards helping people. I think they want less violence, less problems, all that stuff. So I really think just calm, rational discussion. I think the yelling gets nowhere. I think all it does is draw people away. Open the discourse as much as possible. Try and talk, try to explain your position, and try and work through it.
Should churches or religious groups that have like a collection, do they have that in Judaism where they come around with the collection and you put the dollar in or whatever?
I never really went to temple. I know that, I know there's like donations and stuff. I don't think I've ever seen like the hat get passed around. I think there's like boxes at various points, stuff like that.
But so the religions, however they collect money, should they have to pay taxes?
I'm gonna probably give a slightly different answer than that. The mega churches, actually the example I can use because we're in Central Florida, about 20 minutes west of here, there's a place called the Holy Land Experience. And it's kind of like a Bible-based theme park, except legally they're not a theme park, they are a church. And actually yesterday, which was Wednesday, February 23rd, I think, they had to do their
24th.
They had to give their legally required free day to prove that they are not a church. We let people in for free one day. And to me, I'm pretty sure they're making a pretty big profit. They have enough for that. So if I see like the huge profit margins and stuff like that and thinking they're making all this money, they're not paying taxes, and I see them helping themselves more than others, I'm fine with it. But I'm going to then use the example of, let's say you're a Christian-based organization that dedicates to charity, because when we've done volunteer work, we found quite a few religious groups. We like to mainly focus on the secular ones to make them more promoted and let them know the community's out there. But if you're truly doing it not for profit, there's not really any tax money to be made. I'm fine with letting that slide. I understand the price to keep costs low, and I think it would hurt a lot of the smaller groups that really dedicate themselves to charity and don't keep any of them.
Yeah, no, I had a previous person who said, like, look at what are they spending on charitable causes and everything.
Somewhat moderate in my beliefs, I think.
We also talked about Tajikistan and how, I don't know if you had a chance, it's an interesting story. They set in new laws, the government stepped in, and I think they don't want kids bringing Qurans to school up until high school. I think they don't even want kids to go to mosque until like the age of 14, 15. Basically, the government is stepping in and putting some restrictions on the religion. Now, in the framework of the United States, that's probably wrong, but maybe they're dealing with issues that we're not, suicide, I don't know, bombings and intolerance. I mean, are they right or are they wrong?
I think I do know more about Tajikistan, but at least assuming it's the same climate as the United States, which I'm guessing it's not, when it comes to like public schools, I don't like the school pushing stuff on it, and we've had issues. There's quite a lot in Florida, actually. I can show you some links to the groups afterwards that are dealing with stuff. But I know a couple of years ago there were groups handing out Bibles on campus, and then when the atheists said, hey, we want to hand out stuff, there was a big legal battle because they didn't want that. And eventually the Satanic Temple stepped in after the legal battle and wanted to hand out this very nice anti-bullying coloring book, which I managed to pick up a copy at some point because I know the people who were responsible for it. And then they stopped it. But I'm not opposed. I try to let people have as much, I want people to be as free as they want to study that. I'm not huge, but I definitely think there needs to be some clear limits if it's not giving them a fair chance to make their own beliefs, if it's hurting them, if it's affecting them, if it's giving preference to one group more than any other.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good and everything. What should the world know about Madalyn Marie OHair?
More than her beliefs, I think they should know what happened to her because of her beliefs. I think it's gone slightly better, but every once in a while you will see a famous figure in the movement post their like hate emails and stuff, and they have to go with security. After she gave her, I believe it was the Why I Am an Atheist speech, she went through quite a lot of harassment. If I'm not mistaken, was eventually murdered because of it. And I don't think anyone, no matter if you agree or disagree with what she said, deserves that just for saying what they believe. And I think a lot of people would agree with that.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing about her murder. That was very unfortunate. I mean, I think it took them a while to solve it, but they eventually. It was a very unfortunate story. So, you know how some people will say, what you're doing is God's plan, or sometimes they'll say, what they're doing is God's plan, or they'll say God has a plan for you. I mean, have you ever thought about that? Like, have you ever thought maybe God is a secular humanist, really, and this is his plan for you, or its plan for you, and that this is what God wants you to be doing?
Yes, I am entertained, but I guess that's come up at some point. But honestly, it's not something I put much stake in. Kind of hard to believe it's God's plan for me when I don't believe there is a God. So,
But maybe God is troubled by the religious intolerance and wants us to be secular. He wants us to think, well, how does this affect human?
Well, honestly, it's one of the better things I've heard God do anyway. So, if that is true, good for him. If not, but I'm going with that's probably not it.
I mean, again, I really appreciate you taking the time, to do the interview. We had a little confusion in the parking lot. We'll share with the viewers.
You got to see more of the campus, right?
I did, absolutely. I usually end with, did you have any other questions for me, or did you want to make any statements or anything like that?
Well, first of all, thank you for taking the time. Always love anyone who's interested to learn about it. I try to encourage the discourse. Since I am the president of the Secular Student Alliance at UCF, I might want to mention that we have a Facebook page. Find us on Facebook and like us. We just broke 1,100 likes, I think, earlier this week, which I'm happy about. We also have a website, ssaucf.com, because if I don't mention that, the person who made the website will find the video and yell at me for not mentioning it. It's very nice. There's a calendar with all our events, and we put up all the events on Facebook. You can find photos, find more about the group. If you're looking for other groups like that in your area, never underestimate Google. There's a lot of great groups around the country, around the state even, that can help you find support, figure out you're not alone, and help solve some of the issues we're seeing people like us face just in society today.
All right, great. All right, Ben. Thank you very much.